What if I told you? Dracula was real, and he didn't just drink blood in dark castles. He created forests of corpses, dined surrounded by dying victims. This is the horrifying true story of Vlad the Impaler, the man behind the Dracula myth. Stay until the end to learn how this blood-soaked prince became a national hero, and whether he really drank human blood. In the heart of Transylvania, a land steeped in ancient lore and shadowed by imposing mountains, a figure of legend was born. Vlad III, later known as Vlad the Impaler, son of Vlad Dracula, entered the world in 1431. This was a time of constant conflict, a region caught between the expanding Ottoman Empire and the fractured kingdoms of Europe. The very air was thick with tension, and young Vlad's destiny was inextricably linked to the turbulent times he was born into. His birthplace, a land of stunning beauty and brutal realities, would forever shape the man he would become. The whispers of the wind seemed to carry tales of bravery and bloodshed, foreshadowing the path that lay ahead for the young prince. His father, Vlad Dracula, a man of considerable power and influence, held a crucial position in the defense of Christendom. He was a member of the Order of the Dragon, a prestigious and secretive Christian military order dedicated to halting the relentless advance of the Ottoman Empire into Europe. This order, sanctioned by the Holy Roman Emperor, was a brotherhood of knights and nobles, sworn to uphold the Christian faith and protect their lands from the infidel. The dragon, a symbol of strength and vigilance, represented their unwavering commitment to this sacred cause. Vlad Dracula's involvement in this order placed his family at the forefront of the conflict, making them both targets and key players in the unfolding drama. The weight of this responsibility would inevitably fall upon young Vlad's shoulders. But fate, as it often does, took a cruel and unexpected turn. In 1442, a political maneuver orchestrated by the Ottomans led to a devastating betrayal. As a guarantee of his father's loyalty and to ensure the continued peace, however fragile, between Wallachia and the Ottoman Empire, young Vlad, barely a boy at the tender age of 11, and his younger brother Radu were handed over to the Ottomans as hostages. This act, born of political necessity, would have profound and irreversible consequences for the young princes. They were pawns in a dangerous game, their lives hanging precariously in the balance. Separated from their family and homeland, they were thrust into a world of intrigue, suspicion, and constant threat. For years, Vlad endured the harsh realities of imprisonment within the confines of Ottoman camps. These were not mere holding cells, they were places of deprivation, fear, and psychological manipulation. While the historical record is fragmented and often contradictory, some accounts suggest that Vlad was subjected to brutal tortures, both physical and mental. The intent was clear: to break his spirit, to mold him into a compliant tool of the Ottoman Empire. The isolation, the uncertainty, and the constant threat of violence took a heavy toll on the young prince. He witnessed firsthand the cruelty and ruthlessness of his captors, experiences that would leave an indelible mark on his psyche. This was far more than simple captivity. It was a deliberate and systematic process of indoctrination through cruelty. The Ottomans sought to exploit Vlad's vulnerability, to twist his loyalties, and to transform him into an instrument of their will. They subjected him to a constant barrage of propaganda, attempting to undermine his faith and his sense of identity. But instead of breaking him completely, their actions inadvertently forged a new kind of strength within him. The constant exposure to violence and betrayal fostered a deep-seated resentment and a burning desire for revenge. And it planted a seed in the young boy's mind, a seed of darkness that would eventually blossom into something truly terrifying. A seed that would grow, nurtured by years of suffering and resentment, into pure, calculated sadism. The boy who entered those Ottoman camps was forever changed. He emerged with a hardened heart, a thirst for vengeance, and a chilling capacity for cruelty that would define his reign and etch his name into the annals of history as Vlad the Impaler. The lessons he learned in captivity, the horrors he witnessed, and the pain he endured would shape him into a figure of both fear and fascination, a ruler whose name would forever be synonymous with terror. When Vlad returned to Wallachia as a young man, his homeland was in chaos. His father and brother had been murdered, nobles betrayed his family, Vlad began his rule with what's now called the Easter Massacre. He invited hundreds of Wallachian nobles to a feast, then impaled them all. This marked the beginning of his terrifying reign. The year is 1462. The air hangs heavy with anticipation and dread. Sultan Mehmed II, the very man who orchestrated the fall of Constantinople, a feat that echoed across the continents, now sets his sights on a new prize, Wallachia. He marches at the head of a vast Ottoman army, a seemingly unstoppable force, their banners rippling in the wind like predatory birds. Their mission is singular: to bring the rebellious Vlad Dracula to heel, to crush his defiance and reassert Ottoman dominance over the region. This isn't just a military campaign, it's a personal vendetta, a clash of civilizations, and a descent into the heart of darkness. The Sultan believes victory is assured, that Vlad will crumble before his might. He is about to learn a terrifying lesson. But what awaited Mehmed and his legions wasn't the expected resistance, the clash of steel, the honorable battlefield. It was something far more sinister, something that defied comprehension. It was hell. A meticulously crafted nightmare designed to break the spirit and shatter the sanity of any who dared to trespass. As Mehmed's army approached Targovist, the capital of Wallachia, an unbearable stench began to permeate the air, a sickeningly sweet odor that hinted at unspeakable horrors. Then they saw it, a forest of the dead. Stretching as far as the eye could see, a clearing transformed into a grotesque monument of suffering. 20,000 corpses, impaled on sharpened wooden stakes, lined the landscape. Men, women, children, their bodies contorted in eternal agony, silhouetted against the sky. Ravens circled overhead, their cries echoing through the macabre scene, adding to the symphony of dread. The sheer scale of the carnage was overwhelming, a testament to Vlad's brutal efficiency and his utter disregard for human life. It was a message written in blood and bone, a warning to all who dared to challenge his rule. And amidst this sea of suffering, one stake stood apart. A golden stake, gleaming in the sunlight, a symbol of ultimate defiance. Upon it was impaled the rotting corpse of the Sultan's own general, a man Mehmed trusted implicitly. This was no random act of cruelty, it was a calculated insult, a personal affront designed to strike at the heart of the Sultan's authority. It was Vlad's way of saying, "You may be a conqueror, but you have no power here." The sight was too much to bear. Even the most battle-hardened Ottoman soldiers, veterans of countless campaigns, were overcome with nausea and revulsion. They vomited, they wept, they covered their faces in disbelief. The horses reared in panic, sensing the overwhelming presence of death. The Sultan himself, Mehmed the Conqueror, the man who had breached the walls of Constantinople, turned his back on the horrifying spectacle and ordered a retreat. He had faced armies, sieges, and betrayals, but he had never encountered anything like this. Vlad had not just defended his territory, he had weaponized terror itself, turning the very landscape into an instrument of psychological warfare. The forest of the impaled became a symbol of Vlad's reign, a chilling reminder of the price of defiance. The Ottoman army never forgot the horror they witnessed that day, and the legend of Vlad the Impaler was forever etched in their collective memory. Impalement wasn't just death, it was torture made into an art. It was a spectacle, a statement, a brutal display of power designed to instill fear and absolute obedience. The process itself was meticulously planned, a dark ritual performed with chilling precision. The stake was sharpened, but not too sharp, because the goal wasn't a quick end. A too sharp stake would pierce cleanly, bringing swift death. Vlad wanted suffering, prolonged agony, a slow descent into oblivion. The ideal stake was blunted just enough to ensure a torturous, lingering demise. The point was carefully crafted to navigate between organs, prolonging life while maximizing pain. It was a grim science, perfected over years of practice. The choice of wood mattered too. Oak or ash, each offering different properties of resistance and splintering. The thickness, the length, all were factors considered in this macabre equation. The angle of entry was crucial, often through the lower body, carefully avoiding vital organs to extend the victim's suffering. The stake would then be driven upwards, sometimes emerging through the mouth or chest, a grotesque parody of birth. this wasn't mere execution, it was a performance, a carefully orchestrated symphony of suffering. The victims, impaled and hoisted high, became living scarecrows, their agonizing screams echoing across the land, a constant reminder of Vlad's iron rule. And Vlad would sit and watch them die, eating bread dipped in their blood. He would feast amongst the forest of the dead, a macabre picnic amidst the suffering. The sight of his enemies writhing in agony was his entertainment, their pain his sustenance. It was a calculated act of psychological warfare, a demonstration of his absolute power over life and death. Imagine the scene, a banquet table laden with food and drink, surrounded by the decaying bodies of the impaled. The air thick with the stench of death, the groans of the dying a constant background hum. And there, in the midst of it all, sits Vlad, calmly eating, drinking, and reveling in the horror he has created. It was a deliberate act of defiance, a rejection of all norms and conventions. He was daring his enemies, both internal and external, to challenge him. It was a message, clear and brutal. This is what awaits those who cross me. The blood-soaked bread was not just a symbol of his cruelty, but also a perverted communion, a ritualistic consumption of his enemy's life force. It was a way for him to internalize their power, to absorb their strength, to become even more formidable. This act, more than any other, cemented his image as a monster, a figure of pure evil. It was a legend born of blood and terror, a story whispered in hushed tones around campfires for generations to come. So why is he a hero in modern Romania? Because Vlad fought the Ottomans and enforced strict justice. He was a defender of his land, a bulwark against the encroaching Ottoman Empire. In a time of constant warfare and political instability, he provided a sense of security and order. His methods were brutal, yes, but they were also effective. He crushed corruption, punished criminals, and restored a sense of lawfulness to a land plagued by chaos. To the Romanian people, he was a strong leader, a protector, a symbol of national pride. He stood against a much larger and more powerful enemy, and he did so with unwavering determination. He may have been a tyrant, but he was their tyrant, and he defended them against foreign invaders. The Ottomans were a constant threat, their armies poised to overrun Wallachia and enslave its people. Vlad's ruthless tactics, while horrifying, were seen as necessary to deter the invaders and protect his realm. He instilled fear in the hearts of his enemies, both foreign and domestic, and that fear was a powerful weapon. He was a complex figure, a paradox of cruelty and heroism, a man who could inspire both terror and loyalty. His legacy is still debated today, but his place in Romanian history is secure. He is a national icon, a symbol of resistance, and a reminder of the sacrifices made to defend the country's independence. Centuries later, Bram Stoker took inspiration from Vlad's nickname, Dracula, son of the dragon. He wove a tale of darkness and seduction, transforming the historical figure into a creature of the night. Stoker's Dracula was a master of disguise, a charismatic predator who preyed on the innocent. He was a symbol of ancient evil, a force of nature that threatened to corrupt Victorian society. The novel captured the imagination of the world, and the legend of Dracula was born. But the Dracula of fiction is a far cry from the Vlad of history. Stoker borrowed the name and a few historical details, but he created a character that was entirely his own. The vampire Dracula is a creature of myth and legend, while Vlad the Impaler was a real person, a complex and controversial figure who lived and died in 15th century Wallachia. The connection between the two is tenuous, but it has had a profound impact on how Vlad is perceived today. The fictional Dracula has overshadowed the historical Vlad, and many people know him only as the bloodthirsty vampire of popular culture. But the real story of Vlad the Impaler is far more fascinating and disturbing than any work of fiction. The Dracula of legend feared sunlight, but the Vlad of history spread terror in broad daylight. He didn't need the cover of darkness to inflict his reign of terror. His cruelty was on full display, a public spectacle designed to intimidate and control. He operated in the harsh light of day, his actions deliberate and calculated. There was no hiding, no shadows to conceal his deeds. He wanted everyone to see what he was capable of, to understand the consequences of defying him. The vampire Dracula is a creature of the night, a being of darkness and mystery. Vlad the Impaler was a man of action, a ruler who shaped his world through force and fear. He was a product of his time, a brutal and unforgiving era where survival often depended on ruthlessness. He was a warrior, a leader, and a tyrant, all rolled into one. His legacy is complex and contradictory, but his impact on history is undeniable. He was a figure of immense power, a man who left an indelible mark on the world. The real Dracula was far more terrifying than the vampire myth. He was a man of flesh and blood, driven by ambition, fear, and a thirst for power. His actions were not the stuff of fantasy, but the brutal reality of 15th century warfare and politics. Subscribe for more stories of blood, betrayal, and brutal truth. Uncover the hidden histories, the forgotten tales, and the dark secrets that shaped our world. Join us as we delve into the lives of the most fascinating and controversial figures in history, exploring their motivations, their actions, and their lasting legacies. Prepare to be shocked, disturbed, and enlightened as we reveal the truth behind the legends. Don't miss out on our upcoming episodes, filled with gripping narratives, stunning visuals, and expert analysis. Hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to stay informed and never miss a new release.